Hello and welcome, viewers. Welcome to my views and news. Today we are launching a new uh, program, a new type of program in which you would see discussions. Uh, Another participant is going to join me after a few minutes. She's interested in the Horn of Africa. She has some questions. Questions might be on the minds of viewers as well. The questions are about Eritrea. Several Eritrean viewers ask questions, criticize me sometimes, and some accuse me that I am unfair when it comes to covering Eritrea. So let's see what this lady has to say about my coverage of Eritrea and which questions does she want to ask. Hopefully, the lady will keep on joining us in coming days and weeks too. Eritrea is part of Horn of Africa. I am covering Horn of Africa. That most of my focus is on Ethiopia. But you cannot cover Ethiopia without covering Eritrea. And I'm covering. Uh, Let me adjust the settings a little.
Okay.
Let me adjust the layout, please. Yeah, let me introduce her. She is Miss Irma, interested in learning about the Horn of Africa, an educationist, researcher, lots of interest in this region. She's been watching My Vision News as well, other channels too. So, what does she have to say? Platform is for you, Ms. Ermo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sajid, for having me here. I'm doing my research on African countries, and that's what has connected me to your channel. And then thank you for giving me this opportunity to learn more about your research and analyze and your analysis. Um, I have few questions for you. There is a specific topic, but before I start asking you questions, I am eager to know. Uh, 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 it's rather a personal question, and I'm sure this question must be there in your viewers' minds too. That you are a journalist from Pakistan, but you do not cover your own country. What makes you so interested about African countries, especially Eritrea?
Well, firstly, when I created my views in news, first videos were not about Eritrea. It was around 3 years ago. First videos were about Afghanistan, my neighboring country. Then Iran, another neighboring country. Israel-Iran conflict. Then Turkey-Syria conflict. Then Libyan internal civil war. Azerbaijan-Armenia war. So it's a long journey. Perhaps Pakistani issues don't appeal. Uh, they're not appealing for me. Secondly, covering a country from a distance is a challenge. It's easier said than done. I mean, I don't know the local languages. I had no sources there. And it took me lots of hard work to understand what is happening there. So it was a challenge for me. And
Yeah.
secondly, my basic focus is on the Horn of Africa, on Ethiopia especially. And can you cover Ethiopia without covering Eritrea? You have to cover Eritrea to understand what is happening in Ethiopia. So it's not that I'm obsessed with Eritrea, but to understand the Horn of Africa, one must understand what's happening in Eritrea.
Sajid, when you live so far away from African countries, and I can see your interest in them, but how do you make sure that all the news which you are reporting, how do you make sure that they are authentic?
Yeah, yeah. Social media is full of misinformation, disinformation too. It's a difficult task. I think if you want to cover a conflict in an impartial manner, it's not difficult to do. You need to have a look at both sides of the story.
So, do you
You
have
know,
sources there who give
obvious,
you? Hmm.
obviously, how can you cover a long war, internal religious issues, political issues? People stay in touch with me on regular basis. They would be listening as well. And these are from Eritrea, Amhara, Afar, Somalis, Tigrayans, diaspora, OLA, Fano. I talk to all of them from church as well. That is how I understand them. And I think they trust me. So believe me that sometimes I get information before local journalists. I easily get documents sitting in Pakistan from Ethiopian courts. Of course, I can't disclose names, but yes, people work for me. And believe me, these people don't want this channel to be biased. They always say, Sajid, unbiased reporting is missing in Ethiopia, in Eritrea as well. So please cover the region in unbiased manner. So sometimes it's disturbing for me when people criticize me for being biased, for being on the payroll of someone. Because I remember I was on the payroll of CIA when I was covering Afghanistan. Then I was on the payroll of Israel, then Turkey, then TPLF, then PMRV, and now Isas Afwerki and his opponent. So I am not disturbed, but sometimes I feel that I'm trying to do a job honestly, impartially. Still, I face lots of criticism.
Well, I think that is a part and parcel of journalism. But as you said, that you have to see both the sides of the coin to make it not sound biased. So today's that leads us to the topic today. There are two extreme views about Eritrea. There is one group of people who believe that it is like an oasis of peace in the region, whereas on the other side, there is a group who believe that it is a silent place like a graveyard. Now, these are two opposite views or opinions about the same place. Now, today, I would like you to throw light separately on both the aspects and then perhaps give us your analysis. So let's discuss first, why is it called as the oasis of peace in the region?
Well, reason it's simple that Eritrea is not as destabilized as other countries. Look at Ethiopia, 2 year long civil war. Look at Somalia, one third under Al Shabaab. Look at Sudan, where Burhan in power, protests since 2021. Djibouti, small country with less significance. Yemen, across the sea, destabilized. So entire region is destabilized. No doubt that that Eritrea is an oasis of peace in
So,
this
which
region.
means that, so are you trying to say that in comparison with other countries, it is peaceful, more peaceful than? than them, and that is why it is considered like an oasis of peace.
Yeah, yeah. I think that people compare it with neighboring countries. That is why it is an oasis of peace. Otherwise, Eritrean military has been busy for the last 2 decades almost. Border conflicts, involvement in neighboring countries, indirect, direct. So peace is relative when it comes to peace in Eritrea.
Yes, it has been interfering with its all the neighboring countries, almost all of them, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, Ethiopia. Do you think that there is one reason, a collective reason for this, or every country has its own separate reason?
Separate reasons, because its dispute with Yemen was over some islands. Its interference in Sudan is because it shares a border. Sudan in the grip of insurgency. Its interference in Ethiopia is to counter TPLF. It allegedly backed Al Shabaab in Somalia, and now it is training Somalia's military to counter Al Shabaab. So, different reasons, but mainly Isaias Afwerki is a much more seasoned politician in this region, and
Okay.
somehow he has.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
leads me to another question. I was curious to ask, how do you rate the president of Eritrea, and what do you think of his leadership qualities?
well, as a politician who understands the regional politics, international politics, I think he is much more experienced than other leaders. Like Abiy is just a student. I think he's learning from his eyes. Hopefully, he will not learn a lot from him. Then in Somalia, Hassan Sheikh, second term, but still not as seasoned. In Sudan, Burhan is basically a general. Kenya is a working democracy. There, we know that new president there. Djibouti's president is the one who can match Isaias because he's in power for the last 2 decades, but still not as experienced. So, as a politician, he is most experienced in this region. No doubt about
Okay.
that.
So I can see that you're full of praises for him, but then that leads us to our second aspect of today's discussion, that why some people believe that Eritrea is silent like a graveyard if everything is so good going on there.
Well, I am not full of praise for Isaias Afwerki. I'm just saying that he is an experienced politician. But there are lots of issues in Eritrea. People say that there is graveyard-like silence in Eritrea because in Eritrea, one TV channel state-owned, one newspaper state-owned, one radio station state-owned, journalists in prison, politicians too for the last since 2001, I think, and no freedom of expression. Some religious dominations, not allowed to worship freely. Lots of issues. Human rights record is one of the lowest in the world. People fleeing Eritrea, youth fleeing Eritrea. We know that military training and education are linked. Students have to report at Sava in the final year of their second school exam. So there are lots of issues. Silence in Eritrea, I wouldn't call it graveyard like silence because obviously Eritreans are living, they're human beings.
Yeah, and it
And
is a very extreme comment. It should not have
yeah,
been there.
Eritreans need support from the region, from international community. They are facing repression. There is no doubt about that. They cannot question the government. They cannot hold the government accountable.
So
I mean,
more or less, the president is a dictator, but because of his policies, in a way, Eritrea is more peaceful than other countries. So perhaps this is the only mode of survival for them. What do you think? What is your final um, analysis on this?
dictator, no doubt about that. But you cannot say it's the only mode of survival because Eritrea has not tried democracy so far. So how would you compare? Because there is no parliament. You can only compare his rule and democracy if there is democracy. So there is no democracy, no opposition party, just PFDJ in Eritrea. No elections, no general elections, no parliament. So how can you say that this is the only working solution for Eritrea? I think people are paying the price for having a man in power for around 3 decades because they don't have a say in the running of the country. Only a few individuals of PFDJ, Isaias Afwerki is lawless. They're running the country. What does a common Eritrean have in terms of his say in running the country? He cannot cast vote. He cannot cast. He cannot elect members of parliament. There is no working independent judiciary. Welcome back, Ms. Emma.
Yeah, can you? Okay. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. The last answer which you were giving was not audible. So can you repeat?
What was the question?
The question was that we were talking about the president of Eritrea, and you were giving your views about him, and then you were giving me your analysis about both the extreme views. What do you think is the right view?
Well, I said we shouldn't call it a graveyard like silence. What is in Eritrea? It's basically a type of repression. People not allowed to question leaders. People not allowed to hold leaders accountable. No democracy. So dictatorship, without about that. And you said that maybe it's the only solution for them, for
Yes,
Eritrean,
yes,
that through Isaias Afwerki's rule, they are living peacefully. I
yes.
said that how can we say that? Because we have not seen any other form of government in Eritrea so far. How can we say democracy has failed in Eritrea? Because there is no democracy. Democracy was never tried in Eritrea. No election in Eritrea. No judiciary, independent one. No
Yes,
parliament.
he's there. He's there since 1991.
Yeah,
Long time.
since the creation of the country in 1991. So what matters is that people of Eritrea, they have right to elect their leaders. They have right to hold them accountable. This right is being denied. Freedom of expression is being curbed. Uh, It's nowhere in Eritrea. That is why we criticize the ruler. Otherwise, when it comes to his experience as a ruler, he is much more experienced than other leaders in the region.
Sajid, do you see any succession planning? Do you see anybody succeeding or anybody who's strong there? Who?
I think he has a son, Abraham. Maybe another Isaiah's work is in the making, but it's always difficult. In a separate program, we'll discuss post Isaiah's work scenario.
And
Hopefully, in
you cannot have succession unless you give some kind of empowerment to that person to take decisions.
Yeah, and such successions don't work mostly because Isas Averki has a long history of fighting for his people. He fought as well. He knows how the region works, how TPLF, how Ethiopia. He knows the region in and out, I think. So, how
Hmm.
will his successor succeed the way he is ruling? So, several questions. Maybe in some separate video, we'll try to analyze post Isas Averki scenario.
I think these two extreme views about Eritrea, I think it is not fair to call it either graveyard or oasis of peace. I think there's always shades of gray. Everything is not black and white. Thank you very much, Mr. Sajid. Are there any closing remarks you want to make?
Yeah, but you're right that we should analyze and study reality in a balanced manner. The mistake made by the West, by US, is that they sanctioned Eritrea. They showed Eritrea as a devil in the Horn of Africa. They cut off Eritrea. Now Eritrea is not engaged with the EU, with the US. So they lost the leverage. People,
Hmm.
countries, groups should be engaged with Eritrea. To isolate Eritrea will not serve any purpose.
Worsen the situation. Yeah.
And secondly, we should feel for Eritreans too. Any measure to weaken Eritrean government has its impact on poor Eritreans too. So people should support Eritreans. I think regional governments, international power, they should support Eritrean people. They have right to live peacefully, and they have right to live with freedom of expression. They have right to question their government. How to do that? That can be debated, but isolation is not a solution. And thank you for joining, Miss Irma. Hopefully, you'll keep on joining us in coming days and weeks. I like your
Yes,
questions.
I'll be.
It seems you have
I'll
studied very well.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to be there next week with the new set of questions about Eritrea. I'm also doing my research on it, so I'm looking forward for that session too. Thank you very much. It was very informative for me and for the viewers also. And see you next week.
Hopefully, for the viewers, if you have any questions you want Irma to ask, you can email to sajid672000 the rate of gmail.com. See you hopefully in some next such program. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.